long time.
Did you not, you didn't get the message?
What message? Did I get that message?
Yeah.
You mean from the six pack? The forklift to bring on?
Yeah. And we have executive session. Hey, we were gonna have a work session.
But I talked to you.
Talk, yeah. I was gonna, you know, the end of year in review. And
But it's not the end of the year yet.
I was ready.
For the end of the year.
So Lynette saved the day.
Did she
Yeah,
not?
I'm trying.
Oh, thanks, Lynn.
She said no.
I'm drawing the line.
Well, we probably won't be alive by then because it's so cold up here.
I know, it didn't snow. I was disappointed.
Frozen.
I know,
I
but
didn't get snow yet.
it also didn't do what it did out east, so
That was
that's
supposed to get dumped on.
very good.
They're down about an inch in brush. I mean, no, sorry,
Yeah.
a foot.
An inch, I'm going, I don't see more yet, that's a lot.
We got a foot in brush.
And it was mostly horizontal.
Yeah, I was saying, it's kind of hard to say because there are areas where it was clear because the wind had blown it and then it was like,
Yeah.
We might pass some small, Ned said, no, nothing, however,
Okay.
coming this way. It can start after 9 o'clock tonight, after he gets home,
yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
because.
Just give me about 6 inches. 8 inches would be better. 12, okay. I love the snow, so bring it on.
That's your wife.
you're so festive.
No, she's not so much about snow.
If she were to just like go a little to her right, she could.
But they have to be on the
Oh, look at that. Where are you, Deanne?
I'm at my house.
You're muted.
Wait a
Or you're not loud enough.
Yeah, or not, you were okay, now you're muted, okay.
I was beginning to think I'm muted is what my middle name.
We gotta adjust the sound.
I'm glad you're talking, because
We need to do sound test.
These, are not, okay, that's it.
Hi, Deanne, it's you and me, man.
Yeah, we're the only guys that we can hear each other on.
Okay, now. Okay, sound check.
1, 2, 3.
There, now we got it.
4, 5, 6.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, tell us again, Deanne, where are you?
I'm at my house.
Oh, okay. I like the Santa hats.
These got worn to Christmas market over the weekend, so they weren't put away or anything. And I thought, hang them up. It's that time of year.
Yes, it is.
No Santa and Christmas market.
Oh,
There
I did that same thing.
Santa's great.
Moment, maybe, or.
Anyway.
I did hear. Did you hear that? Somebody cussed him out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they-
Yes, yes.
Come from Georgia originally.
Uh-huh. Good to see you. Good to see you too.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
There's cookies.
That's why she came.
Yes.
Well, representative.
DRC and planning commission.
Throw the log on the fire.
There's cookies up here if you want. Hi there, Paul. Cookie if you want. Okay.
And they're good.
Getting close. Oh my God. They've got one.
We missing Rob tonight?
Yeah. He's sick.
I thought I'd scoot you over, if that's okay, because then we can get everybody kind of.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, actually.
This is an old agenda item, so I'm gonna say we're gonna have him, they're gonna come in January.
So. It's super, right?
That's Julie Streeter.
I wouldn't bring it up again, then it was.
No.
Let's just- Next meeting, you can put.
Well, I mean, I don't even know when they're coming in yet.
Correct.
So.
No, I'm shortening next meeting as much as possible to.
And I'm gonna bring that up tonight, but what exactly do we want to do next meeting?
Rubber stamp.
Yeah, I mean, historically, or traditionally, what I've heard is it's the ability.
It's the minutes and the payables and whatever.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Sean? Good to see you.
But when he comes out, he gets, he has permission to go over there and spend time.
Okay.
Here's your second house on the side.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, 40. We only have 3 right now.
That's good.
I don't count. I don't vote and I don't count.
Almost. Like recently, the last game.
Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna get later. So I'll be, I'll be until like 11 or 12.
And then we're lazy. We'll have to go set everything up. We have, it's very, you have to crank it up. Should I crank it up?
It's a bit chilly. It's a bit chilly.
When I get cold, I'll hold that.
I was tempted to leave.
I would check. But actually, it feels much better than when we have a morning. That's like.
Hi, Kathy. There are cookies up here if you'd like one.
Keep saying that.
I was saying.
That's why I can get like a ring shirt on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything you talk like. All right, you want to cover tonight?
Yeah.
We're still waiting for one selectman, so, or two, probably.
Yeah. I bet Rich is.
He's gonna join on, yeah.
I thought he told me that he was not gonna be able to.
And did Rob get hold of it? He said,
No. He told me he was on Sunday.
Because they were entertaining friends on Saturday.
The street blocked off.
Oh, well. Self-imposed. It's rich. All right. Hi there, Rich. Can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
All right, awesome. I think we are expecting John, but it's 6:01. I think I'm going to go ahead and get us started because it's a big agenda. So I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown. Today is Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. As I said, it was 6:01. Let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. I am Lynette Kelsey, police judge. Rob Connell is not going to be with us tonight. John Jennings is just arriving.
Just on time.
If you say here, I can go on. All right, Deanne Powell.
Here,
Paul Hinton.
Here.
Mary Smith. And Rich Barrows.
Here.
Wonderful. Agenda approval. Anybody have anything they want to add to or change on the agenda? I was going to just give a real quick update on the planning grant progress, the planning grant that the county and Idaho Springs have put together. I'll do that under staff items. Anything else? We would like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
I can second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Do we have anybody here for audience business? Okay. Next, we have the payables. These are from November 18th through December 8th, 2022. And then I have a late arrival. I guess this one's dated December 13th. It is from Rocky Mountain Forest Products. It is for additional siding on the Strauss Park project in the amount of $850. So we'll add that to the list of payables you already have. Any questions or comments on the payables?
I have a question about on the sewer fund, automatic door doctors. What is that?
That is a door replacement company that we have hired to, evidently the door on the wastewater plant has been pretty jacked up for a while. And then also, they will be also doing the, 2 doors at the restrooms at the warming hut. Because the frames and everything are rotting out, but this is, the amount on this one is 50% of the cost for all, I believe it's 3 doors.
I was just concerned because that seemed high for just doors, but if they got to rebuild all the structural stuff, I get it. Thank you.
They're metal too, custom metal doors.
So, any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the payables. 11/18/2022 to 12/8/2022.
With the addition
With
of
the addition of the $800,
$850
$850
invoice.
invoice.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payables plus the additional invoice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the minutes from our last meeting, which was on November 22nd, 2022. Any comments, questions, corrections for the minutes? I gave Jen some corrections already, just on the very last page. First item, the mayor's meeting update, it wasn't including any commissioners, so cross out commissioners in those. And then under the executive session, it was Selectman Hinton that recused himself at 7:26 p.m. So just adding his name. Anything else? Would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 22nd meeting as corrected.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of our last meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. On to action items. Agenda item number 1 is some text amendments for historic residential district in section 17.16 of the municipal code. Who wants to start us off?
Well, I'll just kind of start and then allow the boards if they have any comments to make. I tried to make it just a real brief summary of what exactly was going to be changed. And so I added just those things that were going to be added in our summary. But this has been presented to with DRC and Planning Commission. They both then had sub meetings to meet together to make sure that they can hash out some of the questions, clarifications. They both came to a unanimous decision to move forward. And so this is what ordinance number 5 is showing all the changes that they have requested.
Okay. DRC or Planning Commission, do you have any additional comments?
Well, we would be happy to explain our rationale or do any of those kinds of things that the selectmen would like to hear. But everybody looks like that. They're wonderful.
A little bit chilly.
I don't understand how Mary is still on her feet at all. So. You know.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Did I mention the
Discuss
thing?
once we get into this discussion, we can do all of that.
Sure, I need to hear some background. Hot air is a good thing in this.
Yes.
Starting with the DRC being asked to expand a lot size for people and discovering that the ordinance had no maximum lot size at all for the historic district. They also were presented with the idea that the DRC had already looked at the structure and had said, yes, it looks from the visual point of view, it looked like that structure was going to be a good structure. Then the applicant goes to planning and tries to pressure planning that have already been accepted by DRC, and so there is a phrase in all of this that you will notice that says the DRC will no longer issue any form of certificate of appropriateness if there is an issue that planning has to discuss. It doesn't mean we won't preliminarily look at something, but we want it very clear that we're not in the business of trying to pressure our planning commission. So that's in there for balance.
Mhm.
The other parts of it, and there is the section about maximum lot size. This applies only to the historic district from 11th Street south. And it is because we're attempting to maintain the pattern of structures that we have historically. And that's what we are called to do, both the planning commission and the DRC. And our purpose statement says one of your purposes is to maintain the balance with historic structures, not in those words, but that's what it says. And if somebody, of course, we have board of adjustments, if somebody really does have the argument for a larger lot, there is an avenue to take care of that. So that's where the maximum lot size comes from. The floor area ratio is a typical thing used in many zoning kind districts. We have never used it. We have used one of the two ratios of how a building associates with its lot. We have always used the lot coverage. And the lot coverage in the historic district is 40%. That's for anything that's built, your house, your garage, your shed, that 40%. Well, what that actually means, if you can do 2 stories at 40%, if you do the math, on a 5,000 square foot lot, you can have lot coverage that's 2,000 square feet. You could have a second story that is also 2,000 square feet. So theoretically, you could put a 4,000 square foot structure on a 5,000 square foot lot. That's sort of huge. That's not the ratio that we have around town. So in your packet, you have a sort of the visual of what our historic patterns are. And our historic patterns, we're not arguing at all with the 40% coverage. We're just saying that the livable space, and incidentally, that's what you're taxed on. It was very simple to make out that form. All I had to do was look online and they call it square foot living area, not floor area space. It's the same thing, the square foot living area. If you look at our pattern, you find that we're in a 0.2 something or 0.3 something. And if it's a larger house, it simply has a lot more land that goes with it. That ratio seems to maintain. And typically you use both of those ratios because one takes care of coverage and the other takes care of bulk. And we have not done that. Part of the reason this came up is the last set of pictures is Washington Millside.
Mhm.
We are not complaining about Washington Millside. As a matter of fact, those guys really read their guidelines. The gables are in the right direction, the front doors are in the right directions, the windows are the right proportions, the porches are wonderful. And they were going by the ratio that existed
Mhm.
for 40%. And I know that, well, Rob's not here, Deanne is, and members of both of the commissions have heard over and over again from the public is nice houses, but they're too big. No, we hear this all the time, and that's because we were only looking at lot coverage because that's all that our law permitted. So we said we met with planning and talked about taking a look at what is the historic pattern, what would be a reasonable floor area ratio as we proceed. People have said to me, I don't know about the rest of you guys, there aren't that many lots left in the historic zone. It's quite deceptive. There are more than you imagine,
Mhm.
Especially when you consider that some houses, like mine, for example, sit on 2.5 lots. The day I want to, and I don't even have to subdivide, it's already 2 lots. the day I want to sell off one and put a house there, you know, I can count 4 of those sites in my immediate neighborhood. So it's not as though there isn't space for infill. You know, the day Kathy wants to fill up her backyard, we're but legally, you know, and hers is still subdivided in lots. She doesn't have to go subdivide it. It's already subdivided in lots because it was never, you know, the lot lines were never cleared out. So what we worked together, and Dwayne can certainly speak to this too. But because we worked together a couple of work sessions and yes, we would like to propose this for the historic district in order to preserve the scale and ratio of our residential development.
So I guess I'm wondering why you are excluding a full finished basement, but you're including a walkout basement. What's your thought process behind that?
Because if you've got a basement that's totally under the ground, it doesn't impact the visual of the structure. If you've got a walkout basin, it means you can see the whole back of the structure from someplace. And it impacts the look of the structure.
Well,
That's
also,
what it is.
yeah, and if I could add something too, the idea with that is, so if you take lots that are non-conforming lots, but they can still be built on, say, grandfather land. And I think that falls right around 4,000 square foot. The whole idea, and it probably maybe fits that more because that's more a possibility in this historic town. What it does is instead of somebody coming in going, oh, I can only build a little 1,200 square foot house here. If they put a basement, it gives them that extra square footage space. If that kind of makes sense. So we kind of felt that kind of needed to be so that people don't get limited on smaller lots and price that out. Does that help?
Sure.
So that's
Okay,
anybody?
okay. Any questions from the board on any of that?
No,
I have a
it's-
question.
Sorry.
Yes, Rick.
Will that impact any existing structures or ones that are already been approved to be built?
No, if you have a building permit, you have a building permit, you know, we're not into anybody's building permit. So yes, there are, so the answer to the question is no, but are there some existing building permits that have not been built yet? The answer to that is yes, and those will go forward. I mean, obviously they'll go forward, they have building permits, they've done basements. So you can't retroactive stuff.
Right.
No.
I'm good.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it made perfect sense to me, so.
It's clear.
Yeah.
Visuals. So,
Yeah, I thought the vision was sort of necessary.
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a very good addition. Okay, so there is a recommended motion in the packet. Just to be complete, this is ordinance number 5, series 2022. And this is the first reading of this ordinance, an ordinance amending the Georgetown Municipal Code concerning maximum lot and building sizes for the historic residential zone district and concerning code amendments relating thereto.
Second.
No, I wasn't making the motion.
Oh, I thought you were.
I was just reading the title of the ordinance. Do you want to make the motion to?
Sure. Let's do it. I move to
Okay.
recommend that the Board of Selectmen approve ordinance 5, series 2022, an ordinance amending the Georgetown Muni Code concerning maximum lot and building sizes for historic residential zone district and conforming code amendments relating thereto on first reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 5, series 2022 on first reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. If everybody's okay could we possibly move the Strauss Park update forward so that Bob Hamilton doesn't have to be here all night?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I forgot to mention that during agenda approval. So, you've all got the Strauss Park update
Thanks, guys.
report that is put out. Thanks very much for coming.
Yeah, I just make it very brief that, we were successful in getting a functional South Park structure in place for Christmas market. It took a lot of effort, particularly in the last couple of weeks, and a lot of thanks go out to Dwayne and Ryder Leva and a few others that helped kind of push it to that point. We're not done yet. We still have a lot of little things to do. Probably the thing, you know, that well, I'm putting the report or not, but we passed our rough electrical inspection. In between the two weekends. So we were able to go ahead and turn on the receptacles and the lights and the booths, and that was well received by the people in there. Unfortunately, we didn't have a generator power to power up all the heat. We had that on for about 10 minutes, and we took the breakers, so I just killed all the overhead heat. But I've heard from Excel. The town has signed a contract with Excel to go ahead and proceed with the hookup. The next thing is follow up with them and keep pushing them to give us a date when they're going to send a guy out to stick the meter in and connect up the wires. That hopefully will be between now and the end of the year. Just so you know, the purchase order for the additional wood, we ran out of the siding that goes interior to the booth, which is the rough sawn shiplap. So I called the vendor for that, and they can order more, so it'll match what's there. So I ordered another 40 pieces of that, which would be enough to complete the few areas that aren't done yet. The good news is, and I was sweating this the last 6 months, we're going to be within budget. We should have, pretty good chunk of change left by the time we're done. Mary and I will be working on doing it on and make sure we both got all the costs that are involved and get them accrued to the project. But that's the good news. There's some suggestions at the end of my little report here. Things to look at down the road, and probably the biggest thing to think about is we have that nice storage space, which is roughly 8 by 26 or so, with a concrete floor, roof. It's got lights, it's got receptacles. We could easily put heat in it. We may want to consider making that like a food serving area that we could use year round. Put a stove, put a refrigerator in there, that kind of thing. We have events in town. We can cut. It's framed to be able to cut holes to have hooked up doors on the front for serving type stuff. So that's something to think about. It's not in the budget, but that, we probably would have enough money to do that. John? A drain for that facility? Do you have a easy gut for bringing drain facilities so you can have a kitchen clean up and all that?
Water and sewer would be, it's there.
Close enough.
Yeah, it'd have to be cut in. So, we didn't plan for it when we did the concrete. So, that would be that probably the most expensive part of the whole thing. The other thing is the couple of feedbacks that I heard over the weekend was be nice to have gutters so that the rain doesn't, or the snow melt doesn't drip down on people. The biggest thing is the safety thing. Definitely coming through the passageway. That place, that is where it really ices up. So I've asked for a quote from Canyon Glass and Gutter, and I should be getting that in the next few days. He was down there yesterday and took a look, and we'll see what we can do with that. I have to include the cost of an ice melt cable in there, and I'm thinking maybe French drains. We're going to need to get the water out of the gutter in someplace into the ground.
But, and the other thing was, there's a question about the canvas that was used, and I checked, we bought fire retardant canvas, so it's, it'll burn as long as you have an ignition source on it constantly. But if you take the ignition source away, it'll go on, it'll go on, it's a fire retardant, it's the same standard attention. So if we decide to do something more permanent in the storage area, I want to get the building codes and fire department involved to see what we would need to do to make that viable. Storage is easy, it's just the empty shed, and that's where we are right now. But we do have lights in it, we got a couple of receptacles in there as well. Anybody has any questions or ideas?
No, I just want to give you a great big thank you for all your hard work. That was awesome. So hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's an amazing amount of work.
Yeah.
Sure. I think it really came through as much at the end. Awesome.
That
Thank
was
you.
great.
We're still gonna be Commissioner. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Deanne's got a question.
Yes, Deanne?
Hi, Bob, back when DHM was dealing with a bunch of planning on this stuff, they were talking about putting the ice heaters and the gutters up and made a whole disaster presentation of showing us it draining towards 6th. Can we get it to drain back and make your French drains back in like the parking lot behind the building?
There's the difference in elevation from the parking lot to 6th Street is like almost 3 feet, believe it or not.
Yeah,
So our solution would be, we would look at digging dry wells before we start putting down flagstone or the finished surface. When we get to do the resurfacing the whole area, using downspouts with heat tape in it down into that dry well, so that we can get the flow to go underground, and then it'll get absorbed. I mean, I'm not worried about large volume of water. It's just the tiny amount of water that comes out of those, from the snow melt.
is there any
So
chance we can
have to look at
get
it.
that
We're gonna get-
electric hooked up to being a solar thing so it wasn't a constant cost for the town?
I'll be on a thermostat.
No, she's talking about the power to run the heat tape.
The heat tapes, yeah.
Doesn't use a lot of power, Deanne. It wouldn't use a lot of power necessarily, and it would only be, when it's cold out, it'd be on, like below 40 degrees or something like that. We could also, it'd be on its own breaker. So when we have no snow there, we just put the breaker, turn it off.
Okay.
That's what we'll be doing with the lights and the heat and everything else that, if we don't have something going on that mandates using the electricity, it'll be shut off. Otherwise, we will be paying a high electric bill. Solar power it'd be nice, but I think that's a big can of worms in terms of getting enough capacity. How much solar you need put on the roof, and what do you do with, you need batteries, and it would be a major undertaking.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks so much, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
You can go home to warm
Thank
house.
you.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, well, thanks again. Thank Yeah. All right, next we have ordinance number 7, series 2022, and this is also a first reading.
So,
An ordinance amending Title 3 of the Georgetown Municipal Code to provide for imposition and collection of a lodging tax.
so this would be the necessary step next. Before we've already sent out letters to the community stating, here's our form that you have to fill out and the details for that. But we have to have this has to be included in our code that we have an ordinance for lodging tax. So I don't know if there's anything else you can add to that, Jerry.
No, this this lodging tax language tracks the ballot question that was approved by the voters. It defines what lodging is, because that's what what's taxed, i.e. the purchase price for lodging is what's taxed with the 2% lodging tax. And importantly, it also indicates the collection of the tax will be by the town, not by the Department of Revenue. So pretty straightforward.
Okay,
I have a question.
yes,
What are the definitions of the lodging? So on the first page under at the very bottom of the page, was it lodging house?
Mhm.
And then on the next page under lodging services. Two questions. One, should we be including bed and breakfast because we do those, so I can see where they could fall into one of the other categories. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't define them since they exist. And two, and Jerry, I guess this would be more of a question for you. If in time we change our short-term rental ordinance to perhaps make it more than just 30 days, would we have the opportunity to, do we have to look at this ordinance again? If we make that extension, so under lodging services, there's a section or a section of the sentence that says for a period of less than 30 consecutive days. I'm just wondering, you know, can we expand that if necessary as time goes on?
Mhm. Yeah, let me take the second question first. Yes, I think you can. The description of the services taxed in the ballot question is necessarily general, right? And just talks about the right. I don't have it right in front of me, but the right to, you know, occupy a room for less than 30 days upon the payment of the purchase price. So that extends to all sorts of different kinds of lodging, which is where your question's headed. And it's not uncommon for cities to sort of adjust the list of services and goods taxed under the regular sales tax. Here, you're really just refining your definition of what, you know, lodging is going forward. So yeah, I think you would have that. You'd have that flexibility going forward from a Tabor standpoint is really, I think, the heart of your question. Regarding bed and breakfast, it could certainly be added. You're right that a bed and breakfast probably fits as a lodging house, a guest house. I'd be fine with adding that because we've got kind of a long list going on, and it would be fine to add that.
okay.
I should say glamping too.
How about yours?
TPs.
Any other questions?
I'd be fine with whoever makes the motion on the first reading to make the motion to approve the ordinance with the addition of listing for bed and breakfast under the definition of lodging services.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 7, series 2022 on first reading with the addition of listing bed and breakfast under the lodging services section. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda item number 3 is Communications Advisory Board presentation by Marshall Williams.
Yeah. Good evening. I'd say this presentation is more of a staff report than requesting an action item or anything else. If everybody got the memorandum, pretty much outlined what we're talking about. And I think it was just time to involve the board of selectmen with what's happening with what we call our communication advisory board. Little background for those that might not remember, 2016, 2017, the Henderson mine gave indications they're going to cease operations. It created everybody perceiving pretty financial crunch on the county and on the towns. So they decided that all of our emergency services, which were previously provided without significant costs by the county sheriff's office, everybody should take part in helping pay for them. We came up with decisions, created a board that started having us pay fees in 2018. We began by paying 15% of what an anticipated cost would be, going up 15% per year, all the way up to this past year. We paid 2002. We're paying 75% of what our costs are going to be. 2023 is going to be 90%. 2024 is going to be 100%. The numbers we're paying are higher than anticipated in 2018, 2017, when this was created. And now the county is revisiting what they're considering fees and costs should encompass. And this has the potential for some more significant increases, which can cost the town a lot more. When this was brought forward, there was a knee-jerk reaction that there are other means to provide these services, being the main one they found and most convincing so far was through Jefferson County Communications, which is separate from the county, but part of them. They're operated as a separate entity. They do this for a number of agencies all through Jefferson County and other agencies reaching into Clear Creek County. Presentation was made to the Idaho Springs Town Council or City Council. They consider it, and actually last night they made the decision to submit a letter of withdrawal from the intergovernmental agreement to be part of this. I'm not seeking that at this minute. I have a draft of a letter of withdrawal to put forth and see if we can dial it in through Gerald and the board to see if it's not something we're looking to do by the end of this year. Before, it was becoming more imminent that we wanted to do it and be ready to withdraw within a year. We have to give a year's notice to withdraw. The board is still working towards a better solution. We're looking at meeting in January. We're looking at some different options. A lot of things have changed, including members of the IGA. So we're looking at rewriting it. And these are ideas that we're still going to hope might have some benefit. We can all come to a conclusion that we might be paying more than if we went with this other group, but we would still retain the continuity that we've had, which is somewhat important. If it's going to be too large of a number that we pay to the county rather than we could get it for a third of the cost, we should consider making an adjustment. So mostly, like I said, this is more of a staff report on this topic, just bringing the board up to speed on where we're at and what might be forthcoming early in 2023.
I think that's one of my greatest concerns is if you were to switch over to GenCom, your link to Clear Creek County deputies' response could be delayed just enough that could create a totally different set of circumstances that you wouldn't want to be in. So I don't think when it comes up we can just look at the numbers and who's cheapest and who's low bid on a situation.
I don't believe we're looking at just cutting off all communications.
No, I understand that, but then you have to understand, and you know this, JeffCon is gonna be juggling how many agencies? And, you know, where's little old Georgetown coming in the scheme of things? So that's a bigger concern to me personally than the numbers, but what I'd really like to see, and I know you guys are, you know, going crazy out there, which is great, but I'd like to see what our numbers are for, you know, calls of service that we've over the last few years too, so that there's, you know, some, you know, comparable thing, you know, because we are billed by that. And I don't want you to slow down. But
No,
I
well,
would like to see those numbers.
that creates the problem is the calls for service that we're being billed for are created for every little step we take, proactive, you know,
Right.
everything from stopping and telling them what we're doing to maintain officer safety. We're calling in that we're going to walk into Circle K, and even though I'm walking in to buy a beverage, I have to call out that I'm there, so for officer safety, if something occurs in there, they know where I'm at.
Exactly.
Where we're compromising that by not calling you and saving those little individual costs. So all of this is part of what we're revisiting, looking at more of a flat fee kind of schedule, where JeffCom, their plan is what's based on a number of $27 for call, but what they call a call for service is issuing a case number. And the rest of it is just provided.
Right.
So a lot of that to really reduce our numbers. It's not my first choice. I'm looking to keep the continuity. However, like I said, there might be a point where just cost wise, if we're paying what could buy us 2 more vehicles flat out and pay another officer, we have to really consider maybe making the adjustment, and it might impact, you know, have a domino effect towards the whole operations in the county. So I'm really hoping we can work something else out.
I'm thinking too, if Idaho Springs pulls out, they're gonna revisit these percentages as allocated to different
That's
agencies.
my biggest concern.
Yeah.
They're so far representing that's not what is in mind. I don't know how that would not be what happens.
Yeah.
But we're still having more active meetings rather than what we've had historically,
Okay.
where 3 or 4 times a year, now we're going to try and meet every month until we get this dialed in. But if it leads to us making a presentation to the county commissioners, and they're not willing to accept it and make the adjustments that are keeping us, that would keep us here, is something we have to keep in mind.
How's the sheriff also viewing all this?
He's as frustrated as the rest of us.
Is he worried that if Cleveland Springs drops out and Georgetown does, that just may just collapse the whole thing?
He hasn't voiced it, but I think it's probably a concern in the back of his mind. That there's just a lot of infighting, well, I don't want to call it infighting, but they're not in full agreement on operations.
Is there a way we could join up with Gilpin? I mean, I don't know who Gilpin is.
It's one of what we are already kind of part of Gilpin, and it's one of the other considerations is just combining Gilpin and Clear Creek with one dispatch center, which we already share everything. That would be a quick, easy fix. It's one of the considerations.
Well, thanks for doing all the work.
Yeah, Deanne has her hand up.
Is there any kind of a fiscal restriction on us? It says we have to give them a year's notice. Do we have to give them by January 1st or July 1st or any of that sort of thing?
Initially, I was thinking that might be the occasion, but it's a year from when we submit the intent to withdraw.
So if,
So-
if we decided February or September, we'd be okay.
We'd still be committed for another year, but
But-
yes.
Yeah, we aren't restricted to only in January or something. Yeah.
And that's with our current IGA. If we do come up with a new IGA, we'll have to see how that's going to fit. And we have to bring that before the board. It's not something I get to unilaterally decide.
And won't there need to be a new IGA discussed and negotiated in before the end of the term of this one, which you said ends
That's what we're
in
looking at doing.
2004? Okay,
That's what we're looking at doing. There's enough variations from the original that we can justify revisiting and rewriting the IGA.
okay.
I know Idaho Springs went into executive session to discuss it. Do you know if they've come out publicly with a decision or anything?
Oops, I don't know if they did it publicly, but I do know the outcome was unanimous decision to submit the letter.
Okay. So they are.
So apparently it's becoming public if it wasn't.
Okay.
Well, this is just it.
No.
There you go. Becoming
So-
a little public.
So, I guess the question that came to mind was, would it be beneficial if we also had Jeff Kahn come and do a presentation here, or are we just not that far along?
It probably would be beneficial. It's a bit lengthy, the presentation we
Okay.
did in Idaho Springs. It was more than an hour. but it
Okay.
Took up all of the hour. And depending on how many questions they had, they present their service. I did observe it, and I think it's on YouTube, so it's available.
They're presenting $27 per call or something like that.
Correct.
And we're at 32 or something.
Our numbers are calculated different. Where it's a call for service. And it's closer to just a few dollars per call for service.
Okay.
However, they don't charge for every call for service. Rather, they call for when they issue the case.
Okay.
If we
Kind of like every
take,
time you key up your mic, we're getting charged. You have to kind of.
oh, not quite, but close to.
So
Okay,
we had, I think I saw it in here somewhere. 1,646 CAD.
Yeah, numbers. Is
That would be,
that something I submitted or?
I see
yeah,
it
you've got a
here.
graph in here.
Oh, okay.
Table.
That was the estimated graph that we put out
Okay.
in 2018
Okay,
of what our costs are going to be. And if you compare the annual cost over the past number of years, we are paying a good deal more every year than those numbers. were.
yeah, okay,
So,
Okay,
right on.
and if they intend to enlist a lot more fees involved, that's only going to make that number go up.
Right.
And none of these are even including trying to balance out the loss that kind of Springs this year.
Yeah,
yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay.
okay.
So is there conversation going on between Clear Creek and Gilpin as far as kind of a combined
yes,
strat center?
yes,
And it's
yes.
so far it's kind of a
They,
mutual.
they are, we already have a pretty good operation with Gilpin. And just for redundancy, if we have a problem or repeaters go down, Gilpin moves in, we might have a dispatcher transport themselves to Gilpin, but they've handled everything. When the undersheriff's memorial happened, they shut down the dispatch center here entirely. It was entirely handled by Gilpin.
Mhm.
And they've done it for us, we've done it for them. Where their dispatchers will come over here and run all communication operations. So it's already in place. Now, a combined dispatch center is a consideration. There's not a lot of active conversation on that yet.
Okay.
So
Okay, okay,
quick and easy,
okay,
and not asking you guys to do anything yet.
okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No question about that, since I'm here for a staff report, anything else? Have a
There
good
you
evening.
go.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next, we've got a memorandum of understanding for solar.
All right, so this in your packet, you have a summary. I just took the whole report and just summarized it exactly what is part of this, and they're asking us just to be participants, partnering with them and talking about it and showing the benefits of what they would have. I think they would like for us to create goals and so forth, but that's a lot to ask on us to create goals for that model. I think the whole thing is it's a great benefit for you to receive 5% off of your bill. So that's the bottom line, is a 5%, even though it'll be a 95%, they'll end up getting 90% that will be going back, and then you will have a 5% reduction off of your bill because of the solar garden that each person's connected to. So this is a summary to communicate what this partnership is. And if you have any questions, now's the time to ask.
Okay. So are we just, we're considering this now and we'll take actual formal action at a later date? Or do you want to take formal action? Because we would still need to designate the two nonprofits that would benefit also.
Right. So my suggestion is if we can finish it tonight.
Okay.
And I think the two nonprofits that were mentioned in the past, they could be whatever you want, but was the school and HGI. Those were the two nonprofits that each person who subscribes get a chance to then choose which one they wanted. But it would be up to your decision on which nonprofits.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because Georgetown Trust might be another one. Georgetown Community Center could be another one. So. Any comments on preferences?
I certainly support the school. However, I would want to make sure that the school, if as time changes and the charter changes with the district for any reason, that it's still appropriated to our community, our school that is located in our community, as opposed to our charter school that falls within the school district. So I don't, yeah. But I mean, do you get? I want to stay here in that building or wherever that building is in our town. So.
You can say a school within the community as designated by the Board of Selectmen from time to time. That allows you to adjust as needed.
That works.
Did we have to have a minimum amount of subscribers?
I don't believe so.
I don't remember saying that, but I'm just, so I mean, it's one.
So I guess your suggestion, if I'm understanding correctly, Jerry, is to designate two at this time and then fill in some language that says, or as determined by the Board of Selectmen at a later date. Is that what you're saying?
No, you can list one and say, organization X, or as designated by the board from time to time. Mostly I was trying to get at the school issue. So instead of saying a particular school name, you could just address Mary's concern. One of the organizations could be a local school designated by the Board of Selectmen from time to time, period. Right? And then you can have the other organization if you want to actually name one, which you probably should.
Couldn't we do this like Amazon and list all the local nonprofits in our town and let the subscriber choose? Do we have to limit it to just two? So.
Or is that a bookkeeping nightmare for US Solar?
Oh, come on, we only have how many residents?
Well, I'm just saying,
Well, I understand that, but you know, maybe the two that we designate. Someone doesn't really have any strong feeling about and, you know, I would hate, and then the question comes up. Well, why not the trust or why not the community center? Why couldn't we don't have that many in town. I mean, limiting it to, you know, not.
true,
you know,
true. So is that a question that we need to take back to US Solar to see if that's a possibility? To let, when the subscriber sets up their subscription, to have them choose, you know, of this list of nonprofits.
I think that's very appropriate, honestly.
Yeah, I like
That-
it.
I think it gives people options and that's what we asking to be part of this agreement. So
And, you know, there's no huge, any
he may come back and say,
rush.
well, you know, can you limit your list to 10?
I think we're.
Probably good, that's pretty cool.
We don't have too many grants.
Yes, certainly.
I think that they might have a legitimate kind of record-keeping concern about, you know, the number of organizations and how they're gonna track that. But I think it's probably appropriate to send this back to them with instruction or, you know, with a question. Hi, we'd like there to be more flexibility than just 2. How about listing, you know, a reasonable number of nonprofits and allowing the subscribers to choose? Can you track that? Do you have objection to that? And see what they say.
Do we have an easy to grab, like, list of nonprofits that exist here in town?
Pretty sure we have a list, yeah.
So, I mean, that seems like it, yeah. Cool.
Okay, what about the other parts that they asked to fill in the blank? Council hereby designates the following organization, no, I'm sorry, the next one. The specific goal, the town sets a goal of blank participants during a blank month period. Do we really want to set goals like that of saying that we really want to encourage X amount of people to subscribe?
Do we get a reward for that?
No.
What's our?
No,
what do we get out of it?
we don't get any more, the nonprofits.
Well, but the purpose, I guess the purpose of setting a goal like that would be to demonstrate a degree of commitment to the program. However, we're not going to dedicate staff to do anything specific other than keep putting the word out and keep information on the website up to date and, you know, send out an occasional notice, the Friday email, but I don't really see any reason to start setting goals that we may or may not
Correct.
see, you
I'd like
know,
to see that last.
be realistic. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I'll just strike the goals and even the board of selectmen hereby sets the following goals. For
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have a reason to set these goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any residents do we have?
Ian's got a question.
Yes, Deanne?
Well, it says in the paperwork that people can opt out whenever they want to. If we set goals and think we've got them covered and then don't, is that going to penalize us? You know, that's it. That the goals thing is, I get that they want some level of security that they can count on 27 guys at any one time or something, you know, but it still seems like goals are bad.
Yeah, I agree.
So. Okay, so basically this item,
Table.
yeah, so maybe the motion changes to tabling it until further information can be. And would somebody like to make that motion?
Do we need a motion to table
It's in
Yeah,
here as an action
formally
item.
under Robert's rules, yeah, you do, but you know,
Let's go ahead.
yeah, I think it's, and that way Rick will be able to articulate to them, you know, the board tabled this
Yeah.
for action, so we need to hear back from you. that will help Rick, I think, in his conversations with them.
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion to table the draft MOU between the town of Georgetown and US Solar.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to table the draft MOU between the town of Georgetown and US Solar. Do we need to set a time or just?
No, I don't think so. It's, you can
Okay.
take it off the table at any time, so.
All right, sounds good to me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous to me. All righty. Next, we have the amended Clear Creek County Fire Authority IGA. And that is resolution number 21, series 2022. Clear Creek County Fire Authority 2022 amended and restated intergovernmental agreement.
I don't really have much to add from our previous meetings and discussions about it. There were language that were changed, and I brought that up to the board before. This is the draft, the final draft that all the municipalities who are part of this has committed to. And this is the last step for us to, and Lynette and I have been part of the process in discussing the dialogue with the language changes, and we felt very comfortable with it. And so this is, and Jonathan, I don't know if you have any other comments from it, but this is the final draft for us to approve.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Deanne?
Do you know how any of the other municipalities voted? Like, what did Empire say and Silver Plume?
Actually, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know when everybody got this on December 6th. So we're all hearing it at the first meeting after the final draft was able to be distributed. So I don't know. Probably Idaho Springs. Did they have it on last night?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think they did.
It's gonna happen with all of them.
Yeah.
All of this.
Yeah. So all of the municipalities were in on the discussion on revising anything that needed revising. So I don't anticipate any last minute refusals to approve. And this has to be done by the end of the year. So, but to answer your question, I do not know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions? Okay, there is a recommended motion in your packet.
Move to approve resolution number 21, series 2022, Clear Creek Fire Authorities 2022 amended and restated intergovernmental agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 21, series 2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That looked unanimous as well. Excellent. Moving on. Number 6 on our agenda is the resignation of Martin Landers. Also, his company name is Plan Tools.
Great. I'd like to read his letter of resignation, my response, and what's our plan in the meantime. He says, Rick, this email shall serve as the 30-day notice of termination of the professional services agreement between Plan Tools LLC and the town of Georgetown dated February 9th, 2017, which I attached to you as well. Given current workload, scheduled commitments, and the upcoming holidays, I will not be available to provide any additional professional services during the month of December. It has been an honor to serve as Georgetown's contract town planner for the past 5+ years. And my response, I did contact Jerry to discuss if I can accept this letter and what to do in the meantime. And so my response was, Martin, this email confirms that I have received and approved your letter of termination. On behalf of the town of Georgetown, thank you for your service for the past 5+ years. It has been a pleasure working with you for the last 6 months. Best to you and your firm.
Yeah.
And so I did give you his contract to show how, what he did. Our fees, and this was written, from 2017. So of course, fees have gone up since then. In the meantime, I contacted Idaho Springs and asked them what did they do in their meantime, and they communicated that they used a group called Community Matters Institute, and that was their consultant that they used during an interim period before they hired a planner full time. And so I reached out to Jerry to see if this would be acceptable. And Jerry does have relationship and he has interacted with this group in the past. And so I have it's basically, it's called an agreement for services for temporary services. So in the meantime, if we need planning help, I do have a contract, and I would ask that you guys make a motion to approve this so that Lynette and Jim could sign this for temporary services. This could be canceled easily, but it gives us an opportunity to then put some time to do an RFP for a long-term contract.
Okay.
So
So can you summarize the basic terms of that though, since we didn't have that?
yeah. So the scope of services, they're gonna do any kind of work that I send them, they would be willing to look at it. They have experience already in Clear Creek County. It's gonna be big stuff, small stuff I can do in-house.
Mhm.
And so and they understand that, and they're willing to just do, Bighorn Crossing, major subdivision stuff, so that we don't feel like we're in the dark for that. The compensation, it would be $125 an hour. Martin's was $100 an hour. If this is work that will be reimbursed by a developer, then the fee is $140. And so that's just the cost difference. And I asked them to do that because at first it was 140 total. And it is common in many practices that they will have two different fees if it's going to be a pass through. So they agreed to that. And as far as if I go into the last piece of paper, it mentions, how do we, if we were to go a different direction, I think we have to have give them 2 weeks notice. And that would be sufficient for them.
Okay. Okay, that helps.
Are they on a retainer though?
Are they what?
Are they on any kind of retainer? So I mean, if we're giving them 2 weeks notice and they don't have anything that we're contracting with them, 2 weeks really doesn't mean anything to us because we're not paying.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, we're whatever work that they're doing for us, we would be paying, is within as soon as we give them the letter, whatever that we would owe, we'd have X amount of days to turn that in.
And that's the thing with Martin right now, it stands, he's not on any kind of retainer. So even though he's given us the 30 days notice, but it's really effective December 1st because he's not picking up anything new this month. It's not like, okay, yeah.
No, honestly, these contracts, it's no different really than the contract I have with the town. We do the work that we're asked to do. And there's not there's an additional charge or you've paid some amount of money kind of upfront. Not the case. It's the town only bills for work actually performed. If the town wants to terminate this contract, it'll let them know that. And it just gives them time to kind of organize the paperwork that they've been working on, kind of finish whatever projects are in process so that they're not having to leave a project halfway unfinished that reflects poorly upon them. I understand that. And you can pull the plug really anytime. I will say the rates are pretty fair. Rick is right. Those rates have gone up and even at 125 and 140, those are pretty good rates for planners these days.
Okay.
So Barbara Cole, the group that she has founded, Community Matters Institute, they've been in planning for 30, 40 years, extensive, and she has a staff that can do a lot of stuff, more stuff than Martin could do and have available to help. So she has an extensive staff. She's available. I think in the meantime, they will not be able to come in present because she's out of the country and the main planner that I will be working with right now is having surgery. And so, but he would be available through Zoom and things like that. But in the meantime, I think it's a great entity, yeah, for us to have. And they would be interested in a long-term relationship too, but they understand, we're looking for specific things. And so, so anyways.
Okay. So is there,
What motion do you want?
Might suggest that the motion be to approve a contract for temporary planning services with Community Matters Institute and authorize the mayor and town clerk to sign, the police judge and town clerk to sign.
So moved.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the temporary contract for services for Community Matters Institute. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have budget stuff.
Yeah.
So all of our favorite things, and Mary's looking kind of funny over there. She's done such a great job.
You're on.
Yeah. 2023 budget. Here we go.
The only change from the last draft, and that was at the public hearing, is I got the final from, assess for property assessments. That, resulted in a $61 decrease in property tax.
Okay.
Seems like we can live with that.
So that's the only change. Everything else is the same from past two
You're live.
discussions.
You're so far away.
Okay. Yes, we can. Yeah. Okay.
With graphs and narratives and budget letter and everything else.
Yep.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
All very well done.
You're doing all
Very well done.
And
Good job.
see how things fare.
Okay.
2023.
All right. Any comments or questions from the board? So this is resolution number 18, series 2022, a resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund and adopting a budget for the town of Georgetown, Colorado for the calendar year beginning the first day of January 2023 and ending on the last day of December 2023.
So moved.
Second,
Okay,
sorry.
move to approve.
A little slow.
Okay,
We're
it's
getting-
been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 18, series 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 Great.
Thank you, Mary.
That was unanimous. Okay,
Wow.
next, part two is resolution number 19, series 2022. A resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amount for the. Here we are. In the amount and for the purposes as set forth below for the town of Georgetown, Colorado for the 2023 budget year. So this just throws the monies into the different funds. If I'm
Frozen in the.
throws it on.
This resolution, yeah, it's just to appropriate the spending.
Yes.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 19, series 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Excellent. Okay, and then we have certification of mill levy. This is resolution number 20, 2000, series 2022. A resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, levying property taxes and certifying the 2022 town mill levy to Clear Creek County to help defray the costs of government for the 2023 budget year.
So.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 20, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have an amended resolution number 17, series 2022. This is to correct the CDOT grant signers. A resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Colorado Department of Transportation and the town of Georgetown for grant funding for costs related to a construction project at Georgetown Gateway, Argentine Street North. You want to comment on this?
Sure.
Okay.
This one, everything is fixed. The contract has been docu-signed by Lynette and myself. We were the signers for that. And the original one, we had Jim Yopskis. And so it was just an internal error that we didn't catch, but we wanted to make sure that it was amended in the resolution.
Okay, I move to approve amending resolution number 17, series 2022.
Second. Too slow.
It's been moved and seconded to approve amending resolution number 17, series 2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. All in favor. That's unanimous. And finally, agenda item number 10 is ordinance number 8, series 2022. And this is a first reading. An ordinance amending Title 5 of the Georgetown Municipal Code by the addition of a new chapter 5.32 entitled Hotel Licensing.
Jerry, would you like to take this one?
Sure. Everybody still be able to hear me? Okay.
Yes.
You've seen this kind of in a study session context, and the main concern, of course, is hotel rooms being used really for residence purposes as opposed to transient stay. And there are other communities throughout the state that are wrestling with the same issue. And so we see, especially kind of lower tier, no offense intended, but lower tier hotels that are charging less money, per night. Sometimes they'll offer a weekly rate or even a monthly rate. And so it becomes a residential use, not a transient hotel use. And significantly, when that's the case, people feel that they need to be able to have the opportunity to cook in the room and have amenities really, and that are very different really in nature fundamentally than just a hotel room stay. When that is the case, though, and you have a hotel that's designed really as a hotel, not really for permanent residential use, it doesn't lend itself that well to that kind of residential use. And communities are finding that the way to address this, if they're not going to prohibit it, which you could do, but the way to address this is to provide for a hotel licensing kind of system, or if you're going to engage in long-term residential renting, then you need to get licensed and comply with certain standards that are kind of minimum standards to be able to provide rooms that are residential in nature rather than just transient. And so, of course, the devil's in the details about how that works and what level of amenity you're going to require of that hotel. And so the ordinance itself sets up the requirement that there must be licensure. The findings are important because the findings in the section 010 really say why it is that you're doing this, and it's because of the safety conditions that exist that, as I'm sure the marshal would say if he were still here, that you know, they really do evolve into nodes of illegal activity potentially. I see this for some of my other clients. It's a real issue. So that's why you have the findings. You make certain definitions to define what it is, what a room is, what a seasonal worker is, because you're going to use that later. Then you require the license. I'm just kind of ticking through the headings of the sections. You require a license. You put together a requirement for the application form and processing, kind of minimal information you want out of the business, but it's important. You could ask for more, but this is a kind of a reasonable list. Then eligibility requirements for a hotel license. You've got to keep records of the guests that are coming and going, because otherwise there's the potential for people to be staying longer than 30 days without your knowing it, and they need to be able to keep records that you can look at. There's one blank on page 4, letter B, that how close must the cooking and laundry facilities be if they're not in the room? And, you know, we were all in college a million years ago. I know I was a million years ago. And I remember, you know, you stay in a house, but there's a common kitchen. That's fine. And you share that kitchen, but it would be the same kind of thing as translated to a hotel property. Many hotels, if they want to engage in this, will have to do some retrofit, no question. But, you know, I think that comes with the territory. If you're going to provide residential housing in a building that wasn't really designed originally for residential housing, then if there's going to be transient and family extended stays, there are requirements for that, and the requirements are a little different for employee housing. Now, this is a wrinkle that some communities don't engage in. It's you're either extended stay or you're not, you know, residential use or you're not. Here, there's an additional wrinkle to allow employee housing, and I think that's probably important here in Georgetown, and that's defined. The rest is kind of administrative, and when you can suspend or revoke the license, and kind of an appeal process for that. It's first reading. I understand, appreciate the board will probably want additional comment from the hotel owners in town, because this, of course, really affects kind of their business plan and how they're going to account for it. I will tell you that it's, as compared with other similar licensure requirements, it's requiring less of the hotel owners for extended stay amenities than you could be requiring. It's not an aggressive, you know, it's not on the aggressive end of the spectrum here, even though you probably will get pushback that this is going to cost us money. And to be frank, yes, but what you're providing is a residential setting, and that has to come with some kind of amenities, because otherwise it does result in these social policy impacts that the findings describe. That's my thumbnail sketch of this arena.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? Yes, Mary.
I have some questions or concerns. So on page 4, under subsection B, about the employee housing.
Yeah.
And what, and then, parentheses number 1, which we're starting to address. I'm wondering if we should define what those cooking facilities need to be at a minimum. And my concern is also that we indicate that they have to be available 24 hours a day to those potential employees.
Sure, those are both fine.
What is the, I'm sorry. What?
Those are fine to add.
And then I'm wondering what your recommendation is within how many feet of the room. I mean, I would guess that if a hotel were to implement something like this, they would probably group their employees in a certain spot. But my guess is most of our existing hotels don't have what I would consider, I'm not talking gourmet, but you know, a reasonable, you know, cooking or kitchen facility. You know, they don't create that kind of service at their hotels. So I just think we should define what that is.
Yeah,
And then my next,
my take on that is it's kind of a planning judgment call and sort of out of my wheelhouse. But if I were thinking about how to do it, I would, you're right, I would designate 3 or 4 rooms on one end of the building, right? So at least they're together. And then maybe you'd convert a room into basically a kitchen that would be, next door to those rooms. So 40 feet, some number, I would be inclined to plug in a number and then get some reaction from the hotels, because they're going to look at their facilities and kind of think about how they could make that work. That's
right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many feet, so I'm just asking that. And then my other question in reference to that one specifically, I guess, is if they're right now, or we pass this ordinance and they are offering housing for their employees and they're not in compliance, how long are we allowing those employees to stay there before, or, you know,
What's the
what
grace
is the grace
period?
period? I think we should be talking about that. I mean, reasonable, but I don't want to throw anybody out, but I also don't want it to drag on forever, because we're identifying these as important features.
Yeah, I think you make an important point, and for systems I've done for others, they have recognized that it might take a while for people to redesign the facilities to take advantage of the ability to have residential housing. And there are some of them that are in existence already. So what you certainly can do is adjust the effective date language. The ordinance can be effective right away, but the implementation of, for example, that section can be delayed until 2 months from now, 5 months from now, some number. I'm happy to structure that in a draft that you'd, it probably is good if the board approves it on first reading, so it can then be represented by Rick to the industry in the community. Hey, this is first reading. Here's the draft. And we would love your comments on it before second reading. And I can certainly add to that first reading draft the changes you're talking about tonight, understanding it'll probably take more work. But pertinent to your question, we can include a section that calls out certain aspects of the ordinance as being not implemented or effective until X months down the road.
And just that it's available to the employees 24 hours a day. I think it's important that they have that access. So
I made that note. When we get into action mode, I realize a lot of other questions, but I'm making notes. And what I can do, as I often do, is say, well, a proper motion be adopt this on first reading with the following changes, and then I can rattle through my notes. How's that?
my next one is real quick and easy. Under C200 in that same page for the trans family extended stay.
Yep.
Where you've got no cooking or cooking devices, I think we should add no personal cooking or cooking devices. Because obviously if a hotel is providing a microwave or a coffee maker, we want them, we're encouraging them to do that, but just so no personal, because we don't want that extra stuff in. And then that would pertain to, on the next page, on page 500D3, for the seasonal worker, just insert no personal cooking or cooking devices.
Yep, good catch.
And then under the next section E on page 5, the maximum overall occupancy. I feel that 40% is too high.
Yeah, it's a real policy question. I'm glad you note it. And that's something I'd love to have board discussion on.
We have hotels that are 60 or 70 people. or rooms, we're talking almost, I mean, obviously 40% as opposed to 50%, that's half the room. And I think I brought this up at one of our last conversations at a meeting that we're contradicting our marketing events and tourism and trying to draw people here. I certainly don't want to go and stay at a hotel thinking it's a 1 or 2 night type thing. And 40% of the occupants are there for a long period of time. So I am opposed to 40%. I'd rather see 20. I'll throw out a number. So.
Okay.
What's the
Yes,
board-
Deanne?
On page 5D5, it says no pets. And it's almost a requirement to have a dog when you live in Colorado, just like you have to know the Broncos roster, or you're not a real Colorado resident, it's a whole nother can of worms and lots of health things tied up with it. I get all that, but I'm not comfortable with saying no pets, because what if some guy shows up, he's working up at Loveland, and this is the dog he's had since he was 12, I mean, I'm not good with no pets.
Well, there was a section for other allowances for pets, no more than 2, and they had to be either attended, maximum of 2. They had to be attended at all times unless in a kennel and leashed and not disturb other guests. I don't see any reason why those same rules couldn't apply for all categories.
That's cool. I just have a problem with the no pets under seasonal guys, because they're living here for ski season, or rafting or whatever the season it is,
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I made that note. I can just, what I'll do is delete 5 in that location and replace it with a copy of the language in C4.
Yeah.
I can do that.
To piggyback on that, my colleague here has brought up a good point. We're not requiring the hotels to allow pets if they already allow them, then we would be, I mean, we're not saying you've got to allow pets in your place and you never have before.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
that's correct.
So, any other comments or questions?
Well,
I wondered how the category of lodger would be considered if you've got a work crew, say they're working on a CDOT project and it goes on for 3 to 6 months or longer. Is there any kind of provision that would fit them into? I mean, they're not an employee of the hotel or motel, but they obviously need to be staying in the area. They can't commute from home base necessarily. So, is there any flexibility for that category of lodger?
Well, they wouldn't fit into the seasonal worker definition at present because that's 6 months or less, but it begins each calendar year in approximately, same part of the year. So ski and lift operator clearly is what that's aimed at. If it's not that, then it would simply be the transient and extended family stays. So on an individual basis, someone that's living there for longer than that's from 7 to 28 days. All right.
Yeah, but normally the company actually does the contracting for those rooms. Could there be an exception in that section that if contracted by a construction company or similar entity, a longer stay is permitted for the duration of the construction project?
I'd like to get the town back involved in that then. I don't want to give the hotel the opportunity to start bending the rules. If that's the case,
Yeah.
then they need to come and
Hmm.
say, CDOT, our project is gonna last us longer because whatever. And
With prior approval.
yeah, from the town. kind of
Sure,
thing. So,
sure.
so we're not opening up the door to.
Yeah, but don't you have to build something in there
absolutely, yeah.
that allows that administrative?
But I wanted to come back,
Sure.
because I don't want to let that rust with the hotel, with the logic facility. I think then that needs to come back to us so that we continue to maintain control over this.
But I think we're probably gonna have to add something of, if there is a denial, what's the process? Like put an appeal to the board, because that's probably gonna happen, because if it's my discretion and I feel based on what's going on, something's
No
not.
problem.
Yeah, there's gonna be a problem, or maybe there's been a problem and now they're perpetuating and it gets denied. There should still be an appeal process.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
In,
Oh, okay, great.
yeah, it's in there.
Great.
Yeah, any license, the way this is structured, is town administrator issues the licenses after looking at the, application, et cetera, and comparing it to the criteria. But any denial by the town administrator of a license can be appealed to the board of selectmen. Pertinent to your point, so that I think addresses any decision in town administrator that you don't like, it gets appealed up to this board, and be ready for that. And but I think that's appropriate. You have administrative denial, and then it's fair for the elected board to moderate that on appeal if they wish. And that's how this is structured. But pertinent to your question, Lynette, we can do one of two things. I suppose we could edit the scope of seasonal worker stay and include the concept of the corporate worker, long-term corporate worker category within that seasonal worker, or you create a separate category. What I'd be inclined not to do would be to have this whole section and then create some like an exception. If you don't fit in any of this, come talk to the board. That, what'll happen there. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would want to protect you from that. So that the various other quote arrangements, and they can basically do an end run around this regulatory system that you're spending a lot of time on, making sure it actually serves the public policy goals. So I'd be inclined to have it as a category, Lynette, rather than an exception to the rules.
Okay. That works for me, as long as we get that category covered, yeah.
Okay. Other questions? There's obviously more work here. And I wouldn't be, Rick, you can weigh in, but I would not be comfortable just doing these edits and it shows up in 2 weeks on second reading. The industry in the community, you want to get their comments on it probably before it's late on them and they show up on you on second reading. It's more complex than other stuff where we tell people, second reading, show up. But this is a little bit bigger program.
Yes, Deanne?
We have a couple major holidays in the way. Is there a way to make second reading be like our second meeting in January or something?
I think that's where Jerry was headed with that.
Yeah, I think we'll need that, we'll pass it on first reading. And then I'm sure, I'm speaking for poor Rick, and he's a long way away from the camera, so I can't tell if he hates this or not. But
He's not making faces, he's nodding no.
he's not making, okay, good. You pass this on first reading with these changes, I'll edit them and I'll give it to Rick. Then he'll probably send it out to those vendors and say, hi, we've got this started. It's first reading. I really need your comments because the board's going to consider this in January, and kind of leave it a little vague so that then he'll have comments and engage in some back and forth, and that's all good. And by the time we think we've heard from everyone that we need to hear from, then per Deanne's point, we'll then bring it back to you on second reading, probably with a staff report that says, hi, we sent this, we got comments and here's what those comments were, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's what we think you ought to do about those comments, adopt some of them, don't adopt others. Then the room, won't necessarily fill up, but people show up on second reading and we can see if we're close enough or it needs another round. This is an important policy and it's going to affect people. So it's one that I'm not at all shy about, and I think it's the right thing to give it the time that it might have to take. You might have to work on a second reading and then table it for the next meeting and a little more woodshedding.
Anything else? Concerns? Things to add?
I just had a thought about B&Bs. I don't know if it's relevant or not.
Go for it.
Well,
B&Bs,
do they fall in under the same restrictions that this is trying to control?
Well,
I mean,
B&Bs are a hotel. They're a transient lodging establishment renting individual rooms for temporary occupancy, definition of the hotel. So that extends to B&Bs. This is kind of the generic definition rather than the longer one that Mary and I were tinkering with before. And so they'd fall within that. And if they're going to rent for a longer period, then, more than whatever, 28 days, then yes. It's rare, I think, for a B&B to rent for that period of time. I'd be surprised if a B&B wanted to, but they would be included.
It would be like the executive suites, we're stepping up here. Presidential. Extended stay.
Beautiful.
so. All right, anything else that needs to be added on first reading? Okay. Do you want to fashion the motion, Jerry?
Sure. A proper motion, John, would be to approve ordinance number 8. Just, ordinance, John's so good about saying that. Ordinance number 8, series 2022, an ordinance amending Title 5 Georgetown Municipal Code by the addition of new chapter 5.32 entitled Hotel Licensing on first reading with the following amendments. Add to the definitions in 5.32.030 a new definition for construction company crew long-term stay. Amend section 5.32060B to require that the cooking facilities mentioned be within 40 feet of the room and available 24 hours per week. 24/7. Amend section 532.060C2 to read no personal cooking or cooking devices. Make the same change to 5.32060D3, no personal cooking or cooking devices. Replace 5.32.060D5 with the same language as presently appearing in C4. A maximum of 2 pets may be kept in the room, must be attended at all times unless in a kennel. Pets must be leashed if applicable and may not disturb other guests. Add a new section. We'll make it section 3 to the ordinance and renumber the remaining sections. Section 3 to establish a 3-month compliance period during which the ordinance will not be enforced on existing hotel properties to permit them the opportunity to reconfigure their facilities as necessary in order to properly apply for a license.
So,
Wait,
you missed something?
what about our
40%.
40%? Are we agreeing
Oh,
that that's?
sorry, I missed that. And let's see, where was the 40%? Where?
That's E, it's subsection E on page 5. On page 5.
I'm thinking max
Oh,
30%.
Thank you.
I'd like 20.
It's still 25.
I think 2025.
We could just say
21.5.
say 25.
22.5.
Look at that.
That's a quarter. That's
My suggestion is you say 25, no question that this is one of the numbers that is going to be, you're going to get
Gonna come up.
review and comment on. And that'll educate you as to what in the end you want to do, but that number should be lower. I agree, Mary. But if you plug in 25, you'll get comments and then you'll be better informed on second reading to really know where to end up. How's that?
Why don't we say 20 and then?
I don't care. Whatever's going to get the votes here tonight, 20.
Yeah, 20.
sounds
Okay.
like 20 consensus.
All right.
And what about, and then adding that corporate worker.
Already did that
Oh,
Yeah,
at the
I didn't
beginning.
do
I did
that.
that.
company contractor.
Company contract.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now it's somebody.
Second.
That's your motion, John?
that's the motion.
That's my motion. I'm sticking with it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 8, series 2022. On first reading with all of the listed revisions, as
We do.
stated by the town attorney.
There's discussion. I think that's the end.
I'm sorry?
Who seconded?
Oh, sorry.
Ki-
Mary.
Thank you.
Mary, were you changing something that I said, Jerry, or?
No, sorry.
Okay, just couldn't hear when you were talking.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Looks unanimous to me. Thank you. Okay, next is staff reports. Okay, I'll go ahead and give you just a brief update on the IHOP grant progress. So RFPs were put out, the grant was awarded, RFPs were put out, they got 4 RFPs, 3 were chosen to interview, and those interviews happened on Friday. On Monday this week, the group met yesterday afternoon and discussed the ranking of those interviews, and it was tentatively decided, not permanent, but the group pretty much agreed that Williford company was the higher ranking. However, they had submitted 2 proposals, one that fit within the budget of the grant and one that contained some additional elements that was in excess of the grant amount. And one of the elements in that excess was a video that would assist in telling the story. So that could be put out digitally, but it could also be shown at open houses. And the group felt very strongly that because we've got such a range of diverse citizens, that not everybody's got a computer, not everybody responds to electronic surveys, that in-person kinds of open houses and public outreach is very critical for the success of this program. The purpose of the program is to come up with zoning recommendations that can encourage more affordable housing and also assistance with setting up a jurisdictional housing authority. So the group did ask Rick and I how Georgetown might feel on if we did go with this company and we weren't able to renegotiate what their RFP included to bring it closer to in budget, if Georgetown might be able to make up the difference. The maximum difference in budget would be like about 22,000. I did hear from them today that they have talked with that company, and there are other things that could be changed in the RFP to bring down other costs so that video remains a important outcome and doesn't exceed the budget. It might still exceed it somewhat, but it's not going to run the 22. I just wanted to bring it to you, let you chew on it for a while. I think it's Georgetown's going to get a lot of benefit out of this grant, even though we weren't principals in the application. And I just, if it's possible to make this the best product and outcome by contributing, I think it's important to at least consider that. So just wanted to bring it to you and let you know we might be coming back with a request to help fund that budget excess. So that's what I have. Any questions?
I do. You call it an IHOP group?
Yes.
What is that?
I'll get you what it stands for. I don't remember. I know that's what I'm So, okay, go ahead.
Great report, Lynette. And I would conclude too, I got the call today saying that they were able to talk to the applicant and they were willing to adjust costs so that we wouldn't have to. So that was a good, they were wanting us to be assured that, because every dime is precious to Mary, and we have to make sure, because I dreaded that conversation. Oh, one more thing. Okay, thank you, Lynette. So we had Strauss Park already. So last part would just be my update. You've read my staff report, I hope. You had seen the task list. I'm not going to go through it since it's redundant and you guys have seen it. I would like to just bring up 20 different things. No, in all seriousness, just 5 things, just to bring to your attention and to get advice. Okay. So first, before I do that, thank you, Mary. Thank you. My first Christmas market experience was incredible. It was, it's the kind that you think of. A blessing. It is a blessing. But it's the kind that every administrator probably dreams of seeing their town turn into. And I can't tell you how much Brush long to see these kind of things. It will never happen. and I feel blessed to see and experience it.
Can I add to that? Yes. I think that we are so lucky that our town administrator was here and involved and saw and volunteered and was involved in so many different aspects and understands that particular event, but others. And truly, I'd like to recognize Rick on that, because kudos to you. you know, I know you got sucked into the school, I know you got sucked into Elbin Road and Bridge, and I know, you know, but to me, that's the that's the kind of town administrator that I wanted for us. And you were there all the time, you know,
Yeah.
others have not, and so.
Well,
Thank
you didn't have
you.
to say that.
No, I know,
It's-
You paid me to say no.
No, it is something that, it means a lot to me and my wife. I mean, we both were there and it was neat to be part of it, participating, observing, you know, kind of switching gears to see things. But, I love talking to our out of towners who are coming. And I mean, one thing that I just loved hearing was this one guy came up to me and said, I heard you're the town administrator. And he said, can I just tell you something? I was like, sure. He goes, I've spent many years in Germany and I have tried to find an authentic Christmas market experience. And this is by far the most authentic I've ever seen. And I brought my kids and, you know, this is our second week coming. And this is now going to be a mainstay for us and my family.
Oh,
You know, and it was just awesome to hear that,
Yeah.
you know? And I know so many people worked hard and I mean, it's impossible to recognize everyone, but golly, the town was transformed and it was a joy.
Staff was outstanding
Yeah,
and
it
the
was.
support, because I mean, everybody knows we blew it up this year.
Yeah.
And HGI blew it up this year and everybody was just great,
Right.
you know? So, and I think I kind of caught up in it too.
Yeah, I know. So that, I just wanted to highlight that. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Another is, it's something, I guess I'm just informing you of, I would like to be able to give my staff a Christmas bonus. And it's just to be thoughtful. So I would like to be able to give every full-time staff person $200 in a bonus and $100 for part-time. And so just,
Manager.
4,000.
That's typical, what we've,
I think 14 full-time, 1 part-time, so
So 28.
3,000, yeah.
so, and I checked with Mary beforehand, did we have that in the budget? And she said, yes. And,
Oh, she'd say that.
Yeah. The biased opinion.
she suggested the child treasurer get 2,000, but I said, that's too high.
Extra on the line. I think it's a great idea.
yes, yeah.
Just wanted to do that. It's a small gesture.
Yeah.
So next topic is, I need your advice. And so, you know, Mary's done so much for HGI and all these kind of things, but there is a issue that I'm trying to figure out how this falls under. The generators, we had to rent 2 generators and, you know, normally if it was in Strauss Park, they plug into an outlet that the power is provided. And in this situation, we have a tent that there's no power pole that we can connect into. And so it was one of these, oh, I never thought of this. And I was like, oh, this is going to change things. So we, you know, two generators were rented. And I need your advice on how do we disperse the funds from here? The options, I could think of 3, there may be more, as Jerry always has 3. So I wanted to come up with 3. And the first option would be we eat the cost. And Mary finds a way to do this.
What was the cost?
She never, it's about $1,500. So I'm just giving it a
Actually, I was looking at it today, it'd probably be like 14.
1,400.
For both.
So option 1, we eat the cost. Option 2, we ask HGI to reimburse the cost. Option 3, the town already gives HGI $2,000 in a donation. We just take it out of the donation. And so that's 3 options. There may be more than that, but those were the 3 that I could, you know, bring to you guys to say, what's your recommendation?
Can I make a suggestion?
How does HEI feel?
Can I make a suggestion first? Then I could respond to that. Go ahead. So we, the town, had the opportunity to have a Christmas tree program this year. And we sold, I don't know how many, but I think we brought in a couple $1,000. And the conversation was that whatever money that came in was going to be allocated to business promotion.
It has been, yes.
And so perhaps that could cover the generators.
See, look,
It's a
four
good
options.
idea.
Four,
HDI in town.
5 options.
Great points. So I'd like to hear how we proceed.
Well, it does seem like it's a business promotion thing. A bit, I mean, that's what we're doing, so seems like they could be part of that a little bit. And HGI benefits,
No,
not at all,
HDI does not benefit.
not that, it was not for the tent.
It was for the tent, but so HDI collects vendor fees that pay for the tent.
Okay,
In the past, HDI collected vendor fees that went towards entertainment. This year, HDI, we doubled our vendors to pay $8,500 for a tent. We had extended entertainment. I don't know the bottom line dollars yet, but this is not a fundraiser for HDI. This is something that has been a traditional thing that since dirt
yeah,
that they have put on for really the benefit of the merchants in the town.
Okay.
So,
so amend that to. The town pitches in because we benefit and some of the money comes from promotions.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay, can you define some of the money?
Well, 14.
Okay, yeah, and promotions afford some of it.
And support the generators with the free money.
Yes,
Okay.
Would that pay for?
plus, I mean, you've got excess tree money over what the
Right.
generators are costing, yeah.
So,
The Christmas market is done. And so we won't have any more generators this year.
Right, and we can probably figure it out next time to.
Not
have some sort of
always.
power.
Well, I know, remember next year, we've got lodging tax funding coming in to
Yeah,
support
support.
all of our events too.
So I guess the bottom line, would you think it's okay just to take it all out of promotions with the extra funding that you received from the Christmas?
I think promotions would be, I've talked to a couple of members on promotions and they certainly support it.
Did they sell trees the second weekend?
They had a couple of volunteers over there. Yeah, they sold a couple of them. Oh, you mean the second weekend of the original program or the extended? We called it Market.
yeah,
I think a couple of.
Okay, I'll give it.
Yeah.
They-
I mean, not a lot, like
Okay.
a couple, 2, 3, 4. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
You can get them for free now.
It's like free money.
Yeah.
No, and you still have extra in there too. So no,
But that's funny. Yeah, that's done.
how about this also, if your fund is coming up short, then we take it out of general fund.
Yeah.
And if it's gonna throw you over,
For BPC.
yeah. We'll take the difference out of general.
okay.
That's all.
Leanne had her hand raised.
I was just gonna say that there were over 90 of the cut your own trees sold, and then there were 25 pre-cuts down by the charging station, but they didn't sell all of them. So at least 100 were sold.
Then they're gonna donate, if there's any trees left, I think Jen Jordan is following up just for comments sake.
They're in front of the fire station, right? It's a free zone.
Either, free to good home or whatever, but also to follow up with the advocates and the mitten program, with the sheriff's office, so that if any families in need a tree,
Sure.
one,
Sure.
cut, come get it, at no charge.
Okay,
So,
Great.
okay.
Well, I will run with that.
So do I hear, let's just do a head nod around the room. So we're all good with taking it from the proceeds of the tree sales. Is that correct?
There's my head now.
Okay, okay.
Okay, great.
Do we need to check with promotions first in case they would feel put upon, rather, if you ask somebody first and then take it rather than take it and then tell them, do we?
We have the promotions.
We've had that discussion. Yeah, I'm the board rep on BPC. And I've had that conversation with a couple of the other members on business promotions. And they support that, so.
Okay,
And
that's good to know. It wasn't mentioned before.
So, yeah,
Great.
all right, sounds good.
Okay.
More?
Yeah, of course. Wait, there's more.
Ready to go?
That's all. There's two more.
It's 8 o'clock, okay. All right.
Got 10 minutes.
I'm at the end. This is just to update you. So we passed the ordinance for the lodging tax. We've sent out the forms to all the vendors. And one thing that we're gonna have to bring back to you guys is the fee schedule. And so that's coming, just to let you know, we couldn't get into this one because no one wanted to do 11 items. We only could do 10.
You did warrants.
Well, that's last my stuff.
Talking about the registration or something?
Yeah.
Well, there's late fees
It's a license fee, late fee,
No, like
and penalty.
and penalties.
and penalty.
Yeah. So our next meeting, selectmen meeting, I need your advice because I have lots of agenda items I can add to that. But what I've heard is historically it's been a fun, short meeting. And I just want to,
It's on the 27th.
it's our gift to you.
So it's not Christmas Eve.
I was hoping I was gonna be. But I will be.
So typically, Lynette, we need to approve the agenda and payments, right?
Payables and the minutes and
Yeah.
the only other things would be urgent things. And I think the fees for the lodging tax are urgent enough that could be tossed in there. What else did you want?
I'm not gonna add anything else. Everything on my way.
Because I think should be addressed and that goes into effect, get where I wanted, but that would be just a paper record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct. We're trying to make it easy, so.
I don't think I had anything else.
It's not good.
And no cars again.
I know.
These guys
Maybe you call, get your card.
Oh, you say that every year.
So are any of the ordinances that we did first reading for tonight needing to have the second reading quickly?
Lodging tax,
Pardon?
lodging tax, because it's effective as of January the 1st,
Correct.
right? So you need to have the code section in place before the first of the year.
Exactly. Okay. So. Yeah,
Great.
just essential stuff.
Okay, and then the last thing is, it's really, I wanted to just get your feedback on direction. Deanne had requested, and I emailed and told Deanne I'd bring this up tonight in our staff discussion. Deanne has requested a Zoom link, and she asked specifically for a Zoom link where she can be a participant /
I'm gonna
panelist.
interrupt you. I did that on the third time I asked. I was happy as a clam in mud to have it and I asked twice and kept being told that she couldn't be bothered. So the third time asking for that level was just to see if it'd work.
Okay, I wasn't gonna go in that much information, but there were at least three requests. We had discussed it as a staff team. I had actually contacted Jerry to get his feedback because the request, by the time it escalated to the third request, it was, I want to be part of every board meeting. Wanted to be a panelist on every board meeting that we do. And normally what happens is we don't give Zoom links to anybody. That's just standard. We give just and Lynette and I discussed this as well. So it wasn't me making a quick decision or anything like that. It was taking time to think through this. But we currently don't. Well, one is I give direction to my staff, and Deanne had started asking or demanding specific things to our staff. And so by the time let me finish, Deanne. By the time when I responded, I had communicated that I thought through this. I actually asked our attorney to give comment as well. And, normally it happens like this. Our board of selectmen are busy, and I understand you guys have a lot of responsibility and you think through a lot of things. But the day-to-day stuff we think through, the staff. And also, specific boards have appointees from this board that are there. So, and then on top of that, there's a quasi-judicial situation, which is why we don't have a board member on planning commission, because that's pertinent information that if it were to come to this, you already have inside information. So there's specific reasons why we don't have all of our selectmen on boards. I bring this to your attention is because I thought through it, got counsel, and made a decision that the request was, it was more than what was appropriate. I do not think that it's wise that we give you special links to every board meeting, specifically because you all are outside of this, still members of the public, and anybody from the public can come in and sit into this meeting right now. Deanne can come to this meeting anytime. She can come to any board meeting at any time without a Zoom link. So that's the first one. No one's withholding information. Second is she has already the privilege to take the agenda and follow the link already, just like anyone else of the public. I talked to our staff. It is adding it's adding more load to her to have to think through things that begins to cause stress of having to think to add a special link to every board meeting. And so I'm not preventing anyone from coming to this. Deanne is welcome to come in person every single time, but she chooses not to. Deanne is also welcome to go into this link, but to give someone a special privilege of as a panelist, I felt was too much for me to grant. And so because of that, Deanne is also, she's considered it a rude request and that it's suspicious of withholding information. And I chose to not include you in any discussion because I thought it was clear and it wasn't a big deal. And so I'm bringing it back to your attention now as a selectman of, I feel that either we make a change and that you can include these things, or if there's an expectation I'd like to hear, but that is the decision that was made. And Deanna, feel free, you can clarify anything that I said that was not clear or misinformed. But at this point, it was discussed and it was made a decision, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yes, Deanne?
He presented a very skewed view of what was going on. I like to sit in on the other committee and board meetings just to hear what's going on. As an example, I sat in on the planning commission thing where the changes they brought this week to the Board of Selectmen was presented. And I have been listening in assortedly just here and there on different meetings for a good 3 or 4 years now. I know that you can go to the town's site and jig-jog around through about 6 or 8 clicks and finally get to the meeting. Georgetown has always been a friendly place. If somebody wanted information, they could go into the office and get a printout of whatever it was. And I consider this the absolute same as getting a printout of some other information. I may have been misunderstanding giving permissions. The reason I asked for that was because I had asked twice already and was told, you can go through this long involved process anytime you want. It was really a rude and sole me foot to ya thing. So the third time I asked, I said, I'd even like permissions, just because I know that sometimes, we haven't been doing it much now, but sometimes in the chat, there are ways that it isn't broadcast entirely for everybody to hear all of it, to read all of it, that there's like a public level and then a conversational level within the boards and stuff themselves. And I would like to watch that and see that. I still think it's not hard and not an unusual thing to ask. I would like the town clerk to give me the Zoom link to every meeting that comes up. Partially because there were about 3 of them in the last year and a half where I totally rearranged my plans for the day and went to the meeting and sat there and nobody showed up and nobody showed up. One of the times I even contacted Lynette saying, well, what's going on? And it turns out it had been canceled or moved or something. And that is one of the reasons I would really like to have the link given to me so that I don't waste my time. I find that insulting, that I went out of my way to go there and it wasn't on the town site saying this meeting's been canceled. It wasn't any place saying, gee, we didn't get a quorum, so we're not, finishing the meeting tonight. And I don't feel that it's unusual or outrageous or anything else to ask that the town clerk send the stupid link to the Zoom meeting via email, because then I know the meeting's really on and that I can sit in on it and listen. Because again, like the planning commission thing, there was a lot of really interesting things that they talked about, and to figure out the footprint of the buildings versus the percentage of land and all that. It was really good. And I'm glad I got to sit in on that one. It was important. And I feel like what Rick presented was almost scolding. It's unacceptable. I just want to be able to do my job the best I can. That was what I took a pledge to do when I signed up for this. And I don't see it being helpful that the town's saying, well, screw it, go in through the site. It isn't that big of a request. And I still want a link to the meeting so that I can go if I can go.
Okay. So other opinions?
I am super confused.
Okay.
Doesn't all these meetings have a link? Like it's published right here on our agenda?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
So what's the issue?
I'm asking that that link be sent in an email, just so that if the meeting's been canceled or if there's something else we need to know, it starts an hour later or an hour earlier, whatever, that I've got an email saying so. I don't think that's outrageous.
But then you're asking, Deanne, for potentially the town clerk to send anyone who has expressed an interest in attending that meeting to get a personal link. I think you are asking for over and above, in that you are entitled to attend any public meeting as a resident of this community, as am I. But you are asking for a special privilege to go on as a panelist. And you're going to put yourself in a position, if you feel that you are entitled to be able to view the internal chats that may be going on as a panelist, or even attending that meeting in a public way, you are privy to information that the rest of this board is not, and you are going to have to recuse yourself from that decision, and you are not going to be able to be heard on that.
I only ask about the panelists because I had asked twice nicely.
Deanne, please don't interrupt. She wasn't through.
To finish my statement, when I have any issue or concern or request of any employee of this town, I am not their boss. The board, I as a board member have to go to Rick. He reports to me as part of the Board of Selectmen. Jennifer Yabsky, Mary Sims, Ryan Zabel, I am not their boss. I am not in a position, none of the board members have the right to go and to try to be in a supervisory or management role with that person. So by you calling Jennifer Yopsky and demanding that you receive this information as a board member is totally.
I ask, I didn't demand. And I only upped it to the higher level.
In a position, you're putting her in an awkward position and you're not her boss. The only one you should be communicating with is our town administrator. That's the only person I'm supposed to be communicating with, unless I'm coming in to pay my water bill and I'm handing it off. If you're representing yourself as a board of selectmen, you have no right to go to these employees and demand that they give you more attention or information. You're not their boss.
So, anyone else?
States it.
Okay. I support Rick's decision on this. I think the Zoom links that are in the agendas are adequate for all of us. If we wish to attend, we use those. They're not hard to come by. They're readily available.
Then can we ask that it be kept accurate? So if the meeting is canceled, changed, or any way altered, that they're in there so that you can read them.
You know, sometimes a meeting ends up getting canceled at the last minute because a quorum doesn't show up, and you're just not going to be able to have that notice always go out soon enough that you haven't rearranged your schedule. It's happened it's happened to a couple of Board of Selectmen meetings because we just ended up at the meeting without enough quorum. So, we'll all do the best we can, but we'll figure, I think that's a reasonable request that if a meeting is canceled with enough advance notice, that we can get it out on the website. I think that's a reasonable request. So, anything else? Okay. Anybody else have something they need to say? All right. Did you have anything else for us?
Nope, that was all.
Okay. All right. It looks like we are ready for to go into executive session. And this is a conference with the town attorney, town administrator, and appropriate staff. Do you have, who's got the motions
Well, that, I
on
think
those?
because it involves capital prize like last time,
Right,
I need to use myself.
right. That's correct, isn't it, Jerry?
Yes, it is. And I appreciate your making a record of it, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
See you, Paul.
I get to miss all the fun stuff.
I know. We're divvying up the pot.
Take a cookie with you.
Okay. So that actually, the motion to go into executive session, hand that to John. But
Rich, are you staying, coming back? Or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a separate link for the executive session.
yeah,
Yep.
Who's got the motion?
Jennifer, whatever you did for the
Let's start, John.
well, you can make the motion.
Okay, I move to go into executive session under CRS 246-402, 4B and E for the conference with the town attorney, town administrator, and appropriate staff to receive legal advice and instruct negotiators concerning pending litigation, capital prize mine. I further move to adjourn the board meeting at the conclusion of the executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Let's take just about a 5-minute break for everybody to disconnect and reconnect. And Paul